terrific writers from AllThingsD here tonight.
Yeah, but they didn't exist.
Kara, I know they didn't exist then.
Well,
Kara
they existed, but
has become prolific. Right, exactly.
we don't hire babies.
Exactly. Kara started writing prolifically, right? In terms of quantity of, I mean, it changed you as a journalist.
Absolutely. Best time of my life.
Right. And still going. You're still, like, the volume
best time of my journalism career. You know what I mean? It's exciting to be able to get free from, I was the only internet reporter at the Journal initially. Literally, it was me and nobody else, because they literally looked at it like CB radio. They did not think the internet was going to amount to anything. And I did. And I was like, this is really an important a major changing moment for media and everything else in the world. And they didn't share my belief, and I just kept writing about these people. Like, these people are changing. You know, this is like Henry Ford.
Now we're talking about 10 years, 12 years ago.
But the point was, the reason I wanted to then leave the Journal was because the strictures of how they covered things was not what I was seeing in the blogs. I was a huge fan of Andrew Sullivan. He was telling the truth, and yet he was doing it. He does it a little differently, but there was a lot of bloggers who bloviated and ethical problems, and we know who they are. You know what I mean? And so I liked a lot of the liveliness of it. Shush. I like the
magical television.
Right.
Thank you.
I like the liveliness of it and their personalities, and that they were sort of talking like a normal person. Yet I wanted to put in the underscore reporting and accuracy and fairness and standards and all kinds of things that newspapers were running away from this in fear, and I was like, let's embrace it and make it better. And nobody wanted to do that.
Yeah, and let me just tell you two things. One was Kara originally, remember, because it is true that the conference was, D was all about conferences for 4 or 5 years. There was no website like that. It was that big a gap. The website is going to have just had its 5th anniversary. It will have its 6th anniversary soon.
But you were writing for what, the Wall Street Journal Online? I was reading.
No, but here's the thing.
Yeah.
She wanted to do a true blog.
Right.
They were very nervous about it and didn't want to let her do it.
Not nervous. They didn't know what a blog was.
Well, some of them did and some of them didn't. I pitched in to support her idea of doing a blog and got Paul Steiger turned around on it. But still, there were other people that were not happy about it. Along the way of talking about this, we decided, remember that idea we had years ago that we'll do a conference and a website about tech? If they won't let you do a blog, why don't we do a whole website? And you could have a blog in there, and it wouldn't be in the Wall Street Journal website, so they wouldn't have to be so nervous about that branding issue. That was a big part of it. And
these are the things these people worry about. It's
and
ridiculous.
they didn't. And I also have to tell you that they tried to not. You asked about why we stayed at the Journal. So we did the first D conference for free. Yeah. We got no compensation.
No, thank you. No.
It made money.
A lot of money.
To a startup brand and a startup venture at a company like Dow Jones, making money out of the gate was unheard of. And we were not business people, but we did it. They didn't send us flowers. They didn't send us a little bonus. You know, even $1,000 would have made us happy. Didn't do any of that.
Not really. That wouldn't have made me happy.
$10,000 would have made you happy. So we went back for the second one, and we said, and we presented a plan that we wanted, some share of, because we had no equity. They owned it, and they still do, by the way. And the publisher at the time said, well, you're already on the payroll. And so I'm not going to pay you anything extra. And we said to 2 other executives who thought we deserved to be paid, we said, okay, then we're going to cancel it. You can get somebody else to do it if you think they can do it, but we're going to withdraw or cancel it, and we're going to put out a press release saying why.
And we're going to start another conference because there's 25 other letters in the alphabet. So, you know what I mean? And so we really did jant them in a way. It was, but we were entrepreneurial. We were like, we created it, and we wanted to be part of that. You know?
D has gone on now to become, if not one of the most important salons of the year. You spoke about 4 horsemen.
I understand you have this idea about the Gang of 4. Can you talk about that?
It just seems to me that if you look at the industry as a whole, that there are 4 companies which are exploiting platform strategies, I think, very well. Obviously, one of them, in my view, is Google. The other 3 being Apple, Amazon, and Facebook. We've never had 4 companies growing at the scale that those 4 are in aggregate. And I'm talking about growth in customers, cash flow, reach, partners, software development tools, so forth and so on. What's more interesting to me now is that each of them is exploiting, in one way or the other, a platform for creativity that people are building on top of.
So we're going to see a bunch of conversations here. Eric has been a regular guest for you.
Just twice.
Just twice.
At D.
We don't repeat a lot.
Well, he hasn't been a regular speaker, but he's been at a bunch
he's been
of.
at D, yeah.
He's a regular part of the D community.
Well, he pays us, which is good for us.
Yeah, and we're glad that, and
Except when he
sponsored.
speaks.
Except when he speaks.
Yeah, okay. Sergey and Larry came earlier.
First D.
And have not been back. Talk about the dynamic with. I'm sure you've asked them.
We're talking to them this year.
They're coming this year?
No,
We
it's
don't
not
know.
announced.
We're talking to them.
Just very quickly, has Google lost their edge?
No.
No?
No.
No, they're spread thin, and they are a little disorganized. Today they had an important announcement of a thing called Google Drive, and they changed the embargo, the press embargo on it at the last minute. I mean, there's a certain sense of Keystone Cops sometimes about some of the things they do, but I don't think they've lost their edge. I think Larry Page is actually one of the reasons we're asking him to come and speak this time. He's now the sole CEO,
Correct.
and he is trying to focus it the way that very much, I don't know the truth of this, but there's a story about him going to see Steve Jobs in Jobs' last year of life and asking for advice, even though the companies were bitter rivals. Yeah. And Jobs told him, figure out the 5 or 6, this is the story, I'm not verifying it, but supposedly Jobs told him, figure out the 5 or 6 things you do very well. One of them is obviously search, but figure out the others and focus on those, and then kill a bunch of other things, which, by the way, is what he's been doing.
Right. But I think there is,
So you're talking to them.
Right.
What do you think the dynamic is with him coming? Obviously, he's the guy you want to talk to at this point.
He doesn't like people.
Yeah.
That's one of the issues.
And he doesn't like sitting in front of the
He's a very unusual person. That's sort of a nice way of putting it. But I think he's as paranoid.
We've both known him for a long time.
I think he's as
right. I don't mean it I'm talking about he doesn't want to sit in front of you professionally.
No, I don't think it's personal.
Yeah, I didn't mean to imply it was personal.
He's
it's
not.
More,
look.
He doesn't want to explain himself to anybody. That is what he's always been like, and he has no, they're vague. I always call them they're very interested in power and control. They're vaguely malevolent in ways they don't realize. I mean, I think they realize just what they're doing. They do all the colorful, pretty letters, but since I met him, and especially him, when I first met him for the first time, I did the funding story for Google, the first funding story, and then I went over and visited the two. And Sergey's always the goofy.
The real round, the
first round. Sergey's always the goofy one, has always been, same as he was then as he is now. When I left that interview with them, and it was an off-the-record interview, I sometimes take notes, I put down Larry Page equals Bill Gates, and I underlined it like 20 times. And I covered the Microsoft trial at the Washington Post. That he reminded me so much of the same dynamics of Bill Gates, of control, of dominance, of monopolistic tendencies, of righteousness, and so I think he just doesn't want to explain himself.
I think he's basically like Thomas Jefferson, and I hope he comes to our conference.
Right. Okay.
we all hope he comes to the conference.
All those who'd like to have Larry Page speak at our conference.
Would we like to hear from
Let
Larry?
me know.
Sorry.
Why not just stay in your powerful niche of being the go-to place that most people think of as where I buy stuff online? Why not just stay in that comfortable space?
Well, it is a good question, and we do have a high bar when we undertake one of these things that's, not right in the center of what we already know how to do. People sort of understand those product extensions at this point, but new hardware, I think people look at that and they say, what are these guys thinking? And really, how we get there is by basing our strategy first and foremost on customer needs instead of what our skills are.
The opposite of what Jobs told Larry Page. What are you good at? Do those things. Here Jeff Bezos is saying something that says, what do our customers want? It doesn't make any difference whether we're good at those things.
Yeah, but I have to say that Jeff has done a couple of things that were not, I don't think, based on focus groups, as that statement might suggest. one, which most of this interview was about, was e-reading and e-books
Yes.
and hardware. That wasn't their core competency.
This, by the way, is D6. So we're
And it
talking
isn't
about
that
4
they
years
did
ago.
a poll and people wanted a better e-reader. There'd been 20 I think I reviewed all of them. You know, they were all awful and they didn't work. And he was selling plenty of books in traditional form. So I would not interpret what he said there
Yeah.
to mean it as literally as you just did. I don't believe he does things based on. The other is this whole business that a lot of people don't know that they have, which is huge, which is giant server cloud computing business.
Also part of this
which a
interview.
lot of companies run on. And I don't think he did a focus group or a market research
guy
to
does
figure
just
out
what
whether
he
to do
wants.
it.
That guy
He
does just-
is
he's
a
a
lot more
visionary.
like Steve Jobs in that sense than you think. And I think one of the things that characterizes a lot of these folks, and that I would guess, if I could go back in time, characterize the people that started the car industry or the oil industry or, I don't know, the mechanized textile industry, whenever that got started, was these were people who had an idea and they kind of bulled their way through to do it, and they made a lot of enemies. And I don't think that, and they had some instinct for what customers wanted. And not everybody was exactly like Jobs, but some of the characteristics that people attach to Jobs are natural characteristics for people who
Still,
are
though,
pioneers.
we can agree. Let's just. I understand. I didn't mean to imply there was a focus group-based decision. We can agree that Amazon is a celebrated logistics company, a celebrated customer relationship management company, a celebrated retailer, but not a celebrated maker of devices.
That's not true. It's the same. I don't agree. I think that.
Well, but first of all, everybody doesn't have to be a maker of devices.
No, I'm not suggesting they are, but they're
if
making
you code
devices.
and you make a great app or a great website or a great HTML5 web app, it doesn't matter. There's no device there.
He's making the devices so that he can push e-reading. That's why he's doing it.
Right.
It's
that
the
guy,
flip of
it's the
Apple.
flip, yes.
Apple has an iBook store, so they can sell iPads and iPhones.
Right.
Jeff has the Kindle so that he can sell now not just books, but video and magazines and music.
He's a great
and whatever.
instinctual. He does his aw shucks thing and his funny laugh, but boy.
And just like Kara, I mean, we both knew him when he
He's a
was
tough
not such a
customer,
big
let's just
deal.
say.
I can remember having dinner with him. I can remember talking to him on the phone. He called me one day and he wanted to know whether he should keep the .com and the name of the company. I said, Jeff, I can't give you advice like that. I don't know.
Right. Well, he went back and forth. Amazon, then it was Amazon.com.
But I mean,
back in
my
the-
only point is not
yeah.
that I had any role in that, because I didn't.
Right.
But that there was a time, we've been fortunate enough
To know them when they weren't
to know
the
a lot
smartest
of these
people on
people
earth.
in this very pivotal moment, because we're journalists and we've gotten
And
to
And
talk to
Kara,
them.
are you suggesting that Jeff's been very consistent about, I'm going to do this?
I think
this
he is the
right.
most focused of all of them. He's just, the laugh gets you off and you think he's kind of a goofy guy.
No.
I don't turn my back on that guy. That's the one of the few.
People
And-
think of Apple as kind of a secretive fortress.
that's
Amazon is
And
also
and
that
what's
way.
good to know about them early, which is great, and it's harder today, was that he called him about the .com. Larry asked me to write the "Don't Be Evil" essay, and I said, I can't do it because I'm a journalist. And he's like, well, why is that? Because he talks like a robot. But it was, it was a different time. You're sort of with the people who are creating, like Henry Ford might ask Walt, should it be black or black? What do you think? Like kind of thing. The car.
Right.
This is a princess.